Show by the Voice of Stockton and Restore the Delta. This is the weekly radio show where we discuss everything Delta related: the environment, water management, water quality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune into Delta Flows on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
Hello, welcome to Chef Tobias Cooks, here where we have kitchen conversations with professional chefs, cooks, home cooks, bakers, and people that just can't cook. So join us every week for our kitchen conversations and learn a thing or two. And I don't burn nothing in my kitchen.
My name is Josh, and you're listening to KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM. Catch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and the TuneIn app.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good morning, Stocktonians, and welcome to another exciting episode of Tales and Tips. I have with me today District 6 City Councilman Jesus Andrade. Before we get into a discussion of everything that's going on in the city of Stockton, I just wanted to give a plug to the Rotary Readin. For those of you who are not aware, we have a fabulous program in our community called the Rotary Readin. On Thursday, February 22nd, many people in our community will be going to over 800 classrooms to read to children at 10 a.m. If you'd like to sign up for that, please check out rotaryreadin.org. And now we'll turn it over to City Councilman Jesus Andrade. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, for having me.
It's an honor to have you here. And I'd love to have you just start off with what made you want to become a city councilman?
That's a question that, it's a long story, but I'll make it short.
Okay.
For me, it started in college, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, I was the student body president of Sacramento State University.
Oh.
My last year, my senior year. And, but how I got there was just kind of a serendipitous type of moment where I was involved with student clubs. I went to a Bible study group, and one of the members was running for president. She was running for executive vice president. Sorry, and she asked me to run on her slate, and never been involved in politics before then. But I gave it a shot. I said, you know what? I feel like this is something I can do. It sounds like it's interesting, and so I did it, and we won, and it was really an empowering moment for me as a young Latino male from South Stockton to have that type of responsibility and be in that type of environment, however small. Obviously, it's just student body. But what happened is I got to see how important it is as far as who sits at the table, who sits at this decision-making table, right? There's 15 directors, 4 of them were executives. I was one of the executives. And so you have 15 different personalities, 15 different backgrounds. You have some similar ideologies in some folks, but other than that, I mean, we're all raised differently. So for me, I always had a love for my city. I always had a very observant eye in terms of disparities and differences between South Stockton, North Stockton, East Stockton, West Stockton, even amongst high schools. I grew up in a neighborhood that didn't have sidewalks. And so for me, it was something that you took for granted as a kid. You just said, hey, we don't have sidewalks. But there was something wrong with that, right? I mean, when you think about kids walking to school in ditches or close to ditches, going to school, for any parent, you want to make sure that they're safe, right? And you want sidewalks, you want street lights. So just little things like that was always with me when I went to college. But when I got to college and I became student body president, I got to see again how important it is who's at the decision-making body. And so for me, it was like, I want to go back to Stockton one day. I didn't know when. I want to go back to Stockton one day and I want to get involved in decision-making bodies. And I didn't really articulate whether it be council, county, nonprofit. I didn't know. But I knew that I needed to be there so I can make a difference for my community, right? Because I don't believe, some of the disparities between South Stockton and North Stockton, and I'm just saying this in general, weren't, decisions made in a vacuum. They weren't just things that naturally occurred, right? There was people in charge of making decisions, of allocating resources and thinking in the future. And so decisions were made, votes were cast. And so for me, it was like, I need to be back in Stockton to make a difference in my community, to make sure that, little boys and girls aren't walking along ditches anymore to go to school. And
they have books.
And they have books, and the schools are top quality. The infrastructure is there. Our parks are safe. Business is thriving. So for me, it was kind of a long-term view. And I graduated in 2007, so it really took me about 9, almost 10 years to come back. But for me, it was always something that I knew I wanted to do. And now I feel fortunate and honored to be representing the area of town where I grew up, right? My childhood, where my family still resides and where I'm raising my own kids.
Talk about that district. Talk about what area that is.
Yeah, so I represent District 6 on the council. In District 6, essentially, the northern boundary is Charterway or MLK Boulevard. I'm sorry, I still call it Charterway. It's still such a... It was ingrained, right? It was ingrained in us growing up. But essentially, my district is Charterway South, from the 5 to the 99. Once you get kind of on the eastern edges, it gets a little funky, and some of that belongs to Christina in District 5. But essentially, I have Edison High School. I have
an excellent high school.
Excellent high school. I have McKinley Park. I have Weston Ranch. And I have 2 of the largest government, public housing complexes in the county. I have Conway Homes, and I have the newly being reconstructed Sierra Vista, right, or being renovated Sierra Vista, where I was raised until I was 7. But so I have those schools. I have a tiny school named Merlot Institute, which I'm very proud of. It's a bunch of kids that are doing STEM work that are from the local community. And so I'm proud of the work they're doing.
That's
I have
exciting.
The fairgrounds, and I have the big industrial base where Amazon is going to be located.
Awesome.
Yay. It should be up and running by the end of this year.
Awesome. New jobs.
How many new 1,000 jobs?
That's awesome.
And so
we need that. That's huge.
Yes. And so we have a lot of growth in the industrial base down there. But traditionally, it's what we call low-income communities. But even that, I would challenge what that really means in my district. But demographically, it's about 65% Latino. A big percentage of those are immigrant individuals and families. African American. It was historically African American, and now it's kind of dwindled, but it still has a strong African American presence. And then you have some Southeast Asian. And then you have some, I have Sikh, Pakistan folks, Punjabi. We have some Bay Area transplants that live in Western Ranch as well. And, I'm very proud of what Western Ranch represents. Let me just say this real quick. I've worked in politics for 10 years, and I've done a lot of campaign work across the country. And by that, I mean I've done some door knocking, some phone banking, some grassroots, getting people out to vote, all across the country, but I've never walked or campaigned in a neighborhood quite like Western Ranch. It is like the United Nations of Stockton, the United Nations of the Central Valley, where you have folks from different ethnic backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, probably even education levels, living side by side. We're a melting pot. Yes. And this is anecdotally, I walked one street, and it was maybe about 10 or 12 homes. I think it was Pisa Circle. One home was African American, the next was white, the next was Filipino, the next was Pakistan, the next was Latino, the next was I think it was a person from Guatemala, and then you went back to you had a Cambodian family. I mean, you had a variety of folks, and Western Ranch, I think, captures that beautifully for the city of Stockton, because Western Ranch represents, in terms of ethnic breakdown, what the city of Stockton represents. So, and
it's clean. It's well kept up.
Yes.
It's excellent. You walk, and I've walked in that area too, and it's safe. and people have a strong respect for their community.
Absolutely.
Which is wonderful.
Yep. No, and so that's in a nutshell my district. And I grew up all over the place. I grew up, I had family, so I was raised everywhere, but I was, my family lived in Sierra Vista when I was born. On the corner of 10th and Phelps, where a couple years ago we closed down New Grand Save Liquors just around the corner. It was always a nuisance as I remember it, but we lived there. Stable housing. My parents are immigrants, and so they lived in camps for a long time before they finally settled in the city of Stockton.
And there's still a lot of camps.
And there's still a lot of camps,
about
right?
That too.
And so we lived there, and then my dad qualified for a home. It was a program from Carol Nellis.
Oh, wonderful!
From Visionary Home Builders. Wonderful. It was called different back. It had a different name, but my dad was able to qualify. He built a home on the Nightingale neighborhood, kind of by Kmart. But I had cousins that lived off of 9th Street, Mattie Harrell Park. I had cousins that lived in Conway, Van Buskirk type of homes. And
talk about for people that don't understand, when you mentioned Conway homes and homes that the Housing Authority has, because I've worked with them and we'll talk about some projects. Okay. But talk about what they do and how many people they help and what a blessing it is to have the Housing Authority in Stockton.
Yeah, people have their opinions about affordable housing or quote unquote government housing or subsidized housing, and sometimes, most of the times, at least the debate you hear can be the extremes on both sides. It's subsidized housing is for very poor folks, or it's great housing on this side. But one thing that that the Housing Authority does provide is stable housing.
And it's clean and it's safe.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I
shout out to Peter Ragsdale.
Yes, Peter, you're the man. I'm glad it took a New Yorker to finally kick the wheels, but I'm glad you're here on the West Coast. But yeah, I drive around Conway a lot. I have a lot of constituents there in Sierra Vista, and they're like retirement homes. That's how quiet they are. They've done an amazing job of keeping them safe, of keeping them clean.
The lawns are always mowed.
Yes.
No graffiti.
Nothing. I mean, these are quality homes. Now, they're old, but the neighborhood is still quality. It provides stable housing for folks that are on the lower side of the income bracket. And I think they go anywhere between 30% AMI, area median income, to 80% AMI. And so these folks have to qualify. But, again, in my experience, it brought stability to my family, right? And it brought stability for me as a young child to be. It wasn't the safest back then. I'll admit that, back in the 80s, but it was stable. I can imagine my life, what it would be like if I had to be 6 months in one camp, then move to another camp, and when the seasons change, or spend 6 to 9 months here and then go back to Mexico and come back. And it wouldn't be stable.
Look at what you've become, and to me, that's the epitome of the American dream.
Yeah.
That anyone, no matter what economic level you're born into, can become anything with hard work and persistence. And when I've gone to do vaccine clinics or the Easter celebration that we've done with Hope, the Easter egg hunt, or Christmas celebration out at the Housing Authority, the families are so excited, and it means so much to them. And all of these kids who now have a structure in their lives so that they can go on and hopefully do great things. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. And they have 2 strong resident councils, one in Conway, one in Sierra Vista. And if they're listening, shout out to Pandora Crowder at Conway.
Pandora's awesome.
And Georgia Brownlee at Sierra
both
Vista.
Good friends of mine. They're amazing.
Both forces to be reckoned with. and I'm just
it's
proud
a good terminology.
Yeah, they are. and I'm proud of the work they're doing there as leaders of the council. In fact, I think I owe Georgia a call, so I'm going to give her a call after this show's over. But no, shout outs to them. They're doing a phenomenal job. Peter Ragsdale, staff. I'm very excited about the new remodeling of Sierra Vista and the new units.
More housing, I think, and home-owned housing.
Yes. So I think the total will be 100 and 10 or 120 more extra units, and then some housing for first-time home buyers.
Which is awesome. In the area. That's exciting.
No, it's definitely exciting, and it's in my district, so I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of the families that do take the opportunity and really pull themselves up from the bootstraps and go on to get their housing and really move on to the next ladder on the economic ladder. So, and I'd love to do whatever I can to help out with that too.
And let's go back to City Council, and you talked about how important it is to make sure that the voices that are making decisions are sound voices. How are you, as just one member of the council, able to have an influence?
Well, yeah. So what I'm learning is that there's different layers of influence, and what folks see Tuesday nights on the dais or on TV is but one portion of what council members do on a daily basis. And keep in mind, we're part-time, so folks on the dais still have to earn a living. So many of them work, except for the exception of, I believe, Vice Mayor Holman, who's retired. So he's kind of enjoying his best life. But nevertheless, he's still, that's what I'm saying. But nevertheless, he's still doing a lot of work, right? And it's been an honor serving with Vice Mayor Holman. By the time he'll finish, it'll be 10 years on the council.
Wow. So
for us, he's an elder statesman and wise, and we look to him, at least in my age, in my youth, I look a lot to him for advice. But really the influence comes from relationships we build with each other as council members, relationships we build with city staff. City staff that's a very important thing that folks out there listening should know the difference between different governing models. But the city of Stockton operates in a council manager system. And so, we are the last, we're the folks that vote on stuff. And from time to time we propose policy, but a lot of the back end stuff happens with city staff, city manager, and the group that he has there and the team. And shout out to the team for doing a good job. But that's what happens. It's on the daily stuff, the conversations, the relationships we build, the ideas that we have, and how we bounce them off each other to see how it fits in the context of both the city. And then one of the things that we also keep in mind is very ingrained, and I think listeners would be very happy to hear this. We have a long-range financial plan that is this complex formula that we plug in any decisions that have a financial impact. We plug in those the issue, and we plug in numbers, and it lets us know how well we're going to do 25 to 30 years on out.
Which is great.
And so we are very fiscally conservative in that sense. We make our big decisions based on what the long-range financial plan looks like.
And we're now the second most financially sound city in California, which is pretty amazing. Oh, I didn't realize it was in the country. So out of the most populous cities in the country, Irvine is one. Bankruptcy to that. It's phenomenal.
Exactly. In a matter of, we just came out of bankruptcy in 2015. Yeah, so it's been a little over 2 years, but yeah, second most fiscally sound city in the long run. Irvine beats us, but this is across the country. I thought it was statewide too, but it's across the country.
That's phenomenal.
And so it's something that we're very proud of. But again, and the other part that I want to say too, there's also community groups and relations we have out in the community that have an influence on how your council members vote on what they do, because we don't operate in a vacuum. We come from communities as well. We come from neighborhoods. We come from families. So it's really what we do is take a lot of those things into account and think about, at least ideally, we all think about what's the best for the city of Stockton, right? And sometimes we do recognize there's competing interests between maybe one group and another group, or one side of town, the other side of town. But that's just politics, right? And when you have a city this big and this large and this complex
and diverse, it's hard to balance the needs.
Yeah, so you'll have that inevitably. You'll have some tug and pull, but what's key is that the council remains cohesive as much as we can. And I think we have a pretty good cohesive group. That we, again, building relationships with each other is key, because then you know where folks are coming from. You know when things are very important for Councilmember X or Councilmember Y, and this is why they're advocating for stuff. One of the things that I sound like a broken record, and the council always makes, kind of chuckle when I talk about McKinley Park, District 6, Sarah Vista, when I talk about all these things that are in my district. But, I mean, again, I was voted to represent that district as well, and so those are big big sticking points of mine in the industrial base.
Fighting for the needs of the people.
Exactly. But overall, I think we have a good working relationship with each other.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the Brown Act and how difficult it is, because you can't really discuss things as a group other than being when you're on council together.
Yeah. And so the Brown Act does make it difficult, and it makes it difficult, especially since we are part-time and we don't have staff. And so...
And explain it to people, for those that don't know what it means.
So the Brown Act basically is for any governing body, any elected governing body, there's rules that say, and this is for good. This is for good measures to protect the public and protect the public's interest. More than half or more than of those members of an elected body can't really meet to talk about any particular items or things that are going to be in front of that governing body anytime in the future. So folks can still meet, but it's just, it's to talk about their kids, family life. If it's at a conference and you have us together, it doesn't have anything to do with the city. Or we can be at events together. I mean, this is crab feed season, so you'll find us. You'll find
I've
us.
Seen you at a few events.
You'll find us at a few of them together. So there's things we can do together, but it's just we can't. So there's 7 council members on the city council, including the mayor, and so no more than 3 can meet to talk about anything related to the city. Anyone after that, it's a violation, and folks can be penalized for that. But we've been very cautious of that. Our city staff has done a good job of keeping us, ahead of those issues. So what I mean by building relationships, it's just the one-on-one, the coffee, the lunch, the coming over for dinner, getting to know folks, and really, honestly, some of the what you don't want to talk about when you're a council member is city business. You're just like, I'm done with it. I want to just get to know who you are, and so most of the conversation is really about just getting to know folks.
That's awesome.
And so it's a good council, I think.
What is your vision for Stockton? Where would you like to see the city move towards?
To me, I want the city to move towards being. I think we need to demand our respect, and by that I mean I think regionally and I think globally. When I think of Stockton and I think of what we need, we operate. Well, we're situated. In what I call the Northern California Metroplex. I
like that, the Northern California Metroplex.
Yes. I do a lot of reading of City Lab, The Atlantic, all these other things. And it really struck me that we are in a Metroplex when I went to Dallas this past summer. And they call the Dallas-Fort Worth area the Metroplex. It's just like a bunch of metros just that are together, right? I mean, they're literally together. There's just miles and miles of freeway. But you have Fort Worth, you have Dallas, you have Irvine, you have Frisco, you have all these metros that are combined together to form a big economic unit. And I think, for us, we're 60 miles east of one of the biggest global economies in the world, if not the biggest, in terms of tech and in terms of everything they produce in the Bay Area. And then we're just south, 40 minutes south or 30 to 40 miles south of Sacramento's
the
economy. The capital that's really holding it's really growing economically. And then you have San Joaquin County. And it's almost like a triangle there. But I think besides just being a bedroom community to the Bay Area and even to Sacramento from some respects, I know a lot of people that commute to Sacramento, I think we have to find our identity in this Metroplex. I think we have comparative advantages. We have things that these other regions can't offer. And, I'm spending a lot
agriculture.
Agriculture is one of them, obviously, the transportation routes. But I think we also have a unique culture, and I think we have to really bring that to life.
Port too.
And
we
the
can't
port,
forget
right.
that.
And so for me, it's like it's time for us to demand our respect in this Metroplex. And I mean that as a city. I mean that as a region. I sit on the Sajafka board, and I'm sitting on COG, and so I'm learning a lot about the other surrounding cities like Manteca, Lodi, Tracy. And, for what it seems like forever, folks would operate in a silo, right? Stockton was Stockton, Tracy was Tracy, Manteca is Manteca. But I think for us to really compete economically in this Metroplex, we have to think collaboratively. We have to think of what Manteca does well and what Stockton doesn't. How do we fill in each other's weaknesses and complement each other's strengths to really compete in this area. I think we have the bones, we have the things in place, we have the right people here. It's just now, how do we dig deep to become more than a bedroom? And I mean that in a sense where a lot of the economic development has been homes for folks migrating here, and it's been businesses migrating here from either the Bay Area or others in the employer sector. And so, our transportation routes are really to provide, economic development for the Bay Area and in many respects Sacramento. But what makes us unique? And so for me, I spend a lot of time thinking about that on the council. I think we have a beautiful downtown. We're very diverse. I think we have,
and it's coming back, which is awesome. We're having a resurgence and a development of downtown, and I hope to see that continue.
And by the way, for folks listening, I need you guys to go to Cast Iron Restaurant, and I need you guys to go to Channel Brewery on the corner of San Joaquin and Weber. They're local guys, entrepreneurs. They're pioneers. They started their business in the food sector.
Go Brandon.
Which is not the easiest thing to do, is start a business in the food sector. But they have quality products, but we need more people. We need more people to come out every day. We need to frequent their business. I don't want them to be struggling. There's no reason why, and I think
they're both great places.
Both great places, and they're part
of
the
Bella Vista too.
Yes, Bella Vista and Deliberation Room. Let's not forget them. Papa Herbs is also another one down there, and there's more that I'm forgetting, I'm sure, but I apologize. But it's really again, we have a beautiful downtown. We have an amazing diversity. We have good universities, and we have good people here. And I think
amazing people.
Yes, people here are hungry for something new and something that's unique to what we do. And so I'm working to try to uncover that. One of the projects I'm working on, and I'll be brief with this, is I recently went to San Francisco to tour a kitchen space, a commercial kitchen space. It's called La Cocina, so it's the kitchen in Spanish. But they're a nonprofit, and they started because there was a need to formalize the informal food sector. So, in other words, folks that are selling food out of their homes, right, or on the street corner, or they're just selling food at a park, at a Little League game. And they saw a need to formalize that because, one, these folks were getting penalized and fined for doing what they do.
You need to have permits. You need permits and temperature control.
Right. And a lot of these folks don't have that kind of money or capital to start, much less start a brick and mortar. Even a lunch truck's a lot of money. So they said, you know what? Let's teach these folks how to become a business. How they can go, because they have amazing food.
How awesome.
Right. So it's not, their product is great. I think their product will sell, but how do we formalize what they do? And so I went to go visit there because I believe in Stockton we have that same thing. We have a lot of folks that operate in the informal food business. And not just probably the first thing people think of is like Latinos selling tamales out of their house. Right.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought when you said
right.
that.
No,
I wasn't going to say
No, it's true. It's true. Right. And we do have that. I mean, there's a lot of that, right? and trust me, I know. But it's also folks in the Cambodian community that are doing the same. Folks in other ethnic communities here in Stockton that are in that. And so for me, it's happening. How do we capitalize on what people do already?
And how can we help them and protect them,
right?
And make sure the food is safe.
Right. And that's, for me, it's how do we create locally based economic development, right? And so for me, that's one way. You formalize informal food entrepreneurs. And there's two things. One is you create community wealth, you create family wealth, you create jobs. And then two, you can also have, especially
which creates
Stockton,
independence too. Exactly.
And the second thing is you can have an economic impact. And by that I mean, let's say we create a mercado or a marketplace, a food place, a food hub, downtown, South Stockton, East Stockton, West, North, wherever it makes sense. But now you can have an economic impact in that area because now you have people frequenting these marketplaces because you have good food and good products.
And you'll have more businesses, maybe people that have been thinking about starting a business but haven't had the support to do it.
Exactly. And so I'm just trying to bring a different perspective on economic development. I truly appreciate what the partnership does, the business council, different economic development departments within the cities here in the counties. They're seeking the large employers because we do need jobs, right? And so they go after the large employers to relocate here or even support our existing businesses.
And promote what we have too. Visit Stockton does a phenomenal job really highlighting and promoting and showcasing not only our diverse cultural activities, but businesses and events.
Exactly. And so we just, again, they're doing a phenomenal job. But one of the things I want to bring differently is how do you work with what you have here already, right? Again, the informal business is everywhere in Stockton. So how do we capitalize on that? And so it's just creative ways of doing economic development at a smaller scale, but nevertheless could have a big impact on the city and folks that are living here.
And I'm going to give another shout out to a friend of mine who's doing something similar to what you're talking about, but in a different way. James Paul, we have our first professional basketball team, and he's using all local talent, and they're ranked third. They're doing amazing. Yes, they're ranked third nationally out of 120 teams, and they are fortunate to be having games at the arena. And they're just magnificent. So if you can go and check out a Rockets Team Trouble game, please do. Please help support this amazing opportunity. And then I was just going to ask you, what are some of the programs and changes that City Council is implementing to address some of our issues in Stockton?
Well, it's not new, but one of the biggest issues that has been a big issue for a long time is public safety. And, ever since ceasefire and the Marshall Plan and OVP, and since Measure A and B, we're working hard to address those issues because public safety is just key.
It's critical.
It's critical. It's just, and it's critical for families. It's critical for children. It's critical for our communities for businesses. That we have a sense of safety, a sense of security when we walk out. And so, one of the things that the mayor initiated was Advanced Peace, one of the anti-gun violence initiative that got a lot of attention. But it's one of those programs that I'm hoping can complement well what we're doing as a city when it comes to public safety. I think Chief Jones has done a phenomenal job when it comes to that.
He's very innovative.
He's a sought-out speaker in the public safety realm across the country, and so I feel very fortunate to be able to call him our chief here in Stockton.
He's done a lot with minimal resources, also very fiscally innovative.
Yes, and then just recently we had a big homeless type of council meeting where we had about 7 items all dealt with homelessness and housing. And one of the programs I'm very excited about that we just passed recently was a Caltrans City of Stockton collaboration.
Yes.
Where Caltrans had something in Bakersfield that put folks that were homeless, folks that needed a job, that were almost homeless, to work. And so, and this is a double whammy where we do have a lot of our highways and byways are littered with garbage and debris.
It's a win-win. It's a huge win.
Right. And so this program, and Caltrans is funding it, by the way.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So no city dollars.
Right. None. It'll be city time, but obviously, we'll be able to, people are already working on the city side. But essentially, it's going to hire folks to clean up highways and byways, remove them from debris and litter, give folks a job, keep our highways clean. And this is an ongoing project that can happen. And one of the things that was very exciting, too, was they're not just looking, Caltrans isn't just looking to hire, but they're looking to actually partner with community organizations so we can find permanent housing for a lot of the folks that are working with them. They had a success story where they found 200 individuals, it was a combination of individuals and families, housed permanently in Bakersfield after 4 years of having that program. And so for me, that would be an amazing dent. That would be a big dent here in the county.
Huge dent.
And so we're excited about that program. We just allocated funds from our general fund to pay for a homeless czar that'll be housed in the county.
Yes, and that's through the Homeless Task Force.
Exactly.
I'm on that. My husband is on that.
Yeah.
And it's time. I mean, homelessness is only growing, and housing is a big part of that. So I'm glad you talked about that also.
Yeah, and so we've folks have been pushing this long before my time, that there has to be a coordinated effort with cities and the county and
all the organizations as well.
Yeah, and it's happening across the country where you do have this. This is especially important in California, where the county has all the services, and really cities don't have any when it comes to addressing the homeless issue, other than just our police department. But our police department should be doing police type work and not be asked to be called social workers and psychologists, and they have a job to do. So we're excited about this. I heard the city of Lodi, shout out to Joaquin and the council there, that they also allocated resources from their general fund to fund this position. Awesome. So again, I think we're moving forward in a collaborative approach as cities. Homelessness is a public health issue. It's a moral issue. It's an economic issue. And so we're really putting where our money where our mouth is in terms of a city to really address the issue. So we're doing innovative stuff. Now be patient, folks that are listening. This is a issue that's countrywide, nationwide, and so we're addressing it, but some things will take some time.
And then also earlier when we were talking, you mentioned something to me about transformative climate communities. Yeah. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll be brief about it. So it's a state program, Transformative Climate Communities, that's funded through the earnings from the cap and trade program that the legislature put in place several years ago, where businesses can trade and for things for carbon emissions, and so that has provided some money, and the legislature was very specific as to where to use that money. And the TCC is aimed at helping cities create housing, bike paths, and just really being more conscious of their climate impact or carbon imprint on the climate. And so they're looking for more kind of dense development, but it's also just the way we transport each other, the way the cars use the roads, bikes, buses. And so, and it also has a housing component, it's an economic development component. Awesome. And so the city of the first round had 3 major grants that the state granted to one was Fresno, City of LA, and then the third one is still to be determined. But when I heard Fresno got $75 million, I was just surprised. Wow. I'm like, what is Fresno doing that we're not doing? Because can you imagine what $75 million infusion can do for the city of Stockton?
Amazing.
And so those were the big grants. And so the state said, you know what? Let's give out 10 other grants for cities that want to receive this type of infusion.
And make changes, make positive global changes.
And so what the city of Stockton did with a lot of partners, community partners mainly, and really they're the ones that drove it, along with the mayor's office, we got together and applied for a planning grant. So the state ranked us the 5th highest region city in terms of their scoring rubrics on the validity of the projects of what we're trying to do. So we're the 5th highest. We got a $170,000 planning grant.
Wonderful.
Yes. And so in fact, we're meeting tomorrow to really kind of go over and game plan what we're going to do in the 12 to 16 months ahead to really plan and gather ourselves and create a blueprint to then go for the big mama grant, right? The big infusion of money. And so it's exciting.
That's hugely exciting.
It is. I mean, again, it's all collaborations and coalitions that are being built.
And we're having a lot more collaboration just in general with organizations in our city, which is hugely exciting.
Yeah. And I really believe that's how we're going to get out of, move far beyond the bankruptcy and really become a prosperous city, is through collaborations and folks working together from the private side to the public side, from the individuals to communities, from neighborhoods to the larger city. Awesome. It's going to take a huge effort. And I think, again, I'm hopeful. We have all those things in place. We have folks that are hungry to improve the city and to really put us out of this black eye that we got in the bankruptcy and everything that led to it. Folks are ready to just turn the page and really live in a city that everyone can continue to be proud of, but even be more proud 10, 15 years from now.
And Mayor Tubbs initiated a lot of the collaboration.
Yeah.
Some of it has come through things, though, that we've already been doing. It's just a combination, but it's all positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's doing a good job of really bringing in outside resources, which
we need that.
We need, right. Cities that do well in any part of the country do well in bringing philanthropic dollars, having the business community move on initiatives. And so, my hat's off to the mayor for looking at, I think he's brought collectively over $25 million in a year.
Wow.
A little under a year and a half from outside resources. And the biggest one being the Stockton Scholarship Program that guarantees funding, tuition assistance for any kids. And I will make this clear, for any kids graduating from SUSD high schools. But the goal is to have all Stockton schools be a part of the Stockton Scholars Program, including the other three districts that have high schools here. It's just the goal is to go from 20
somewhere.
Yeah, and right now it's 20 million in 4 high schools. Well, not just 4, but all 10 high schools that are SUSD. It's manageable, but they have a clear sight to raise the rest of it to really have this be universal for
awesome.
For all high school seniors from Bear Creek all the way down to Western Ranch.
That would be phenomenal because it just gives them more opportunities to achieve great things, and education is pivotal.
Yeah. Here's a quick stat. This is why it's pivotal. Only 17% of our population, 25 and over, have a bachelor's degree. And that puts us at one of the lowest in the 100 largest metros across the country.
Not only that, but unfortunately, in terms of national statistics in the 3rd grade reading level, so many of our students are well below the national reading average. That was part of what is motivating me to try and be a member of the county school board.
That's
reading
right.
is pivotal. Education is pivotal. And I'm really thrilled about the scholarships. I know people have been complaining because of what you said, that it's not throughout all of Stockton, but there's plans that it will be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there is. It's just you have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
And historically, SUSD over the last 50, 60 years has been kind of the lowest performing district. And not just in this region, but, countywide. And so we really want to put an infusion of support and infusion of initiatives to really galvanize the district, teachers, principals, students, to really feel that they're a part of something larger and can really focus on the books and graduate, go to college or get a career after that.
Yes, get a career, be self-supportive.
Yes, we need folks to or not even, but also be an innovator. Like, how do we infuse a level of innovation within our schools to where we're not only producing college-bound kids or folks that will be hard workers, but also entrepreneurs and innovators in the new economy.
And we need all of that.
Right.
We need not only students that are college bound, we need students with skills in the labor force, contractors, and we need people to develop their own businesses as well. We need all of that to have a sound community.
Right.
And we could talk for hours.
We could. I was like, an hour, that's a long time to talk, but Governor Don was right. He was like, it'll go by quick. Don't worry about it.
It goes by fast. Yeah. So in wrapping up, is there any final thing that you'd like to say?
Well, I think we're going through a change culturally, economically, that is a global phenomenon. But I think, those changes happen in communities. That's where you feel it because you're closest to everyone. And so we're no different. Stockton's going through some of those changes. I think the bankruptcy really accelerated that, right? And our economy is looking different. Climate change is happening. Education models need to change. Politics has become more divisive at the national level, and I think it trickles down.
Just scary.
Yeah, and it trickles down to communities. Again, this is where you really, really feel it. But for the residents of Stockton, brighter days are ahead. And one of the things that I focus on as a council member is how do we change the narrative, right? How do we bring everyone along in this diverse city on the narrative that says there's no way for us to go but up after we hit rock bottom, and we're all going up together. We all have
and it's a huge upward effort. We're not talking about a tiny spark.
No, like we really have to like shoot up, right? And I think everyone has a role to play in this narrative, right? Is how do you speak about your city to others outside of the city? How do you speak about your role in the city, even amongst ourselves, because we're all different in different groups. And so I just want folks to just have confidence in your leaders. I know it's sometimes disagreements happen, but folks really do have, and I can speak from my experience of all 7 council members. We do have the Stockton's best interest at heart,
and positive change is happening.
Yes, and it is, and just the narrative is key. We're not bankrupt. We're not a foreclosure capital of the world. We're not the most literate city. We are Stockton. And we are a gritty town. We're resilient. We have great people here. We're going to find our foot and we're going to shoot up like a star. And I really believe that. I don't mean to sound mushy, but I feel that hope is the last thing to go. And so we'll sift through a lot of this. We'll sift through some of the rhetoric and things that are happening locally, but I think we all have Stockton's best interest in heart, and I'm working hard as a council member to do my role in making sure that we do move forward in the positive direction and that we're economically prosperous. Our schools are doing well. Our kids are being educated. Families are working. Families are starting businesses. The new economy doesn't pass us up. I'm working hard to make sure we're part of the new economy. Climate-wise, this is why we did the TCC grant. I think we have a unique opportunity because the Delta's here. So we have to take care of the Delta.
We have
That's
to preserve
our responsibility
the Delta.
As a county, as a city. We have to preserve the Delta. There's just a lot of things happening. So if you guys ever want to sit down and have coffee with me, you can find me on the Stockton Council website. I'm not hard to get, but I would love to hear more from folks that are out there and they have their ideas. And we can talk about Swinson. We can talk about whatever it is. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there that we just need to clear up and move forward as a community, because there's brighter days coming up ahead.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Julie.
It means a lot to me, and I'm going to sign off. I am the voice of Stockton. You are the voice of Stockton. We are the voice of Stockton. Make it a great day.